All right, here we go then. We will start with the ground at Ascot. And the very simple question for each of the panel, I'll start with you, Dave. Could the executive at Ascot have done anything differently to ensure more competitive racing yesterday? And should they have done anything differently?
I personally don't I think they could by chucking loads of water on, loads and loads, but I don't think they should, personally. I don't like the idea that ground given as good to soft, good in places, is watered. I think that I don't think I'm one of those people who hasn't moved with that window that you were talking about. I don't think good ground should be a problem in national hunt racing. I saw it was reported via the Racing Post website, but I think they were quoting Ascot when they said they'd put 5 millimetres of rain on the track overnight, Friday and Saturday.
Unless they've got a hotline to the big man upstairs.
Even Nick Smith.
He's close to godliness, but not that close.
It used to be watering, then it became irrigation, and the BS needle has now gone up to rain. But personally, I don't think I don't think you should do that. I think there's too much watering on the flat and in jump racing 12 months of the year. But I'm not a horseman, I'm a punter.
Right. Shark would be walking a lot of tracks, probably more than you or I, possibly not more than Megan, but what is the negative impact of a lot of watering?
Listen, I'm a bit like him. Too much watering is out with me, right? Because probably I have more summer horses than that. But yesterday, I think there's not a thing he could have done. If he had to get rain yesterday morning at 7 o'clock and he was after watering, he was wrong, right? Why did he water and the rain came, right? Then he had a drying day. I just think there's nothing could be done yesterday. It happened, and it'll happen again in different tracks, right? But I think there's an awful lot too much watering going on in the tracks.
And this leads us on to small fields. We know that yesterday's field sizes were affected by a combination of fairly unusual circumstances, but you look around today, there's 5 in a juvenile hurdle at Exeter on ground that no one's going to really have too much of a problem with. Now, Punchestown, the opening race today that takes place on Racing TV at 11:30, 11:45, whatever it is, 17 runners, 17, 16, 17,
yes,
17.
so it was the very same. You have a maiden hurl in Ireland, you have full field. You go through a rest yesterday in Punchestown, all big fields. I don't know if the horses are not in England or what, but I know if they want more Irish people to come over, the rule, I think they're changing it in January now.
Yeah, it has been changed. You can all come now.
But like, if I'd bring a horse for one of them novice races, as long as I could bring an ordinary horse to try and win a race. Do you know? So like, the sooner that all opens up, I think you'll have bigger fields in England. And we need, as I said earlier,
even with the cost of living across both countries, you think loads of smaller Irish trainers will bring...
It's cost of money. It's cost of money to bring horses, but people want winners. Owners want winners. And if I say to an owner tomorrow morning, it's going to cost £1,500 to bring your horse to England, if he thinks that horse has a chance, he won't mind.
So if he can cover his costs and get a couple of grand on top,
and have a winner,
he'd be happy.
And have a winner. Everything is about winning, do you know? And no matter what syndicate, no matter whatever you have, if just for instance, in 2 months' time or in 6 months' time, I have a horse at home, there's 20 lads in the syndicate, and I say one thing, they're here, they're over, right? Like, as we spoke about it earlier today, we need to get more people back racing.
Do you know, I thought I was out pretty much all day yesterday. I had to catch up on the racing later, but I did catch on my phone walkover at Ascot, and I thought, penny to a pound, I know who the trainer is who's won the who's won the walkover. There was only ever going to be one candidate, wasn't there? And he'd know that it was £8,756 and 3 pence to the winner.
Yeah, I think it was a bit more.
Which it probably was.
Yeah,
what
which
was
it? Good. Yeah, it was 16,000 or something. So yeah, no, they were happy, and Lorcan was delighted. I think he said it was his best ride of the year. So yeah, it was it was good. Someone's got to do it, haven't they?
That'll never happen in Ireland. There'll never be a walkover in Ireland.
But there's less racing on a weekly basis.
We have a lot less racing, but you'll always have John Ryan, for instance. He'll put in a horse there that he could be £30 lower, and he'll get to £3,000 for 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, like how often do you see a race in Ireland with 2 or 3 runners? Don't happen. It happens in England a lot.
Yeah.
Do you know?
All right, let's take a look at a horse who won kind of what was the most anticipated race of the week in the end, the High Fly Bloodstock Novices Chase at Warwick. This was Jonbon beating Montmoral and West Cork. Now, small field, but 3 seriously good horses. One very good one potentially really high-class one, and one that could end up being great. Jonbon is now 2-to-1-ish for the Arkle, Dave, and there was at least one column this week, I think it was David Jennings in the Racing Post, who said, and I think it was shorter than 2-to-1, I think he's at 6-to-4 was it, he said it's the most ridiculous price I've ever seen anti-post for a horse. Is it?
Well, I'd like to defer to John O'Connell to start off with this.
This is our Racing TV colleague, who for a long time has been an odds compiler for Ladbrokes.
Huge experience of the horse racing and betting industries. And Angus McNay turned to John after the novice chase and said, 7-4, John, would you want to back him? And John and Angus was obviously, I think, expecting John to say, I wouldn't go near that. And John just said, I wouldn't want to lay him, put it that way. And I thought, well said. You know, like, would you want to lay Jonbon at 2-to-1 for your life? Certainly not. Okay, Sprinter Sacra was. I think it was said that he was 8-to-1 for the Arkle after he'd won his first novice chase. I looked at the Racing Post analysis, and it said it's no surprise that he is a best price 7-to-1. So he was 7-to-1 and shorter. But we also know that we know where he's going to go. He's going to go to the Arkle. It'd be very surprising if they came out and said, right, we're going to go over 2.5 miles.
The year that Sprinter Sacra won that match race against Pedlar's Cross at Kempton and was then installed as 7-to-1 third favourite for the Arkle, he also was in a year where they had Q-Card and Alpha Off.
Yeah.
You know, who at that time were better contenders. Are there that many better Arkle contenders in the UK and Ireland than Jonbon, Megan?
Well, I suppose at the moment, no, but we're yet to see, you know, there could be some more still to come out yet. You know, the likes of Willie and Gordon will certainly have a big team. And look, he was foot perfect. He was exceptionally impressive the other day at Warwick. And on that, he's going to be hard to beat. But it's a very long time until March, and there's a lot more horses to come out yet. OK, we are going to turn our attentions. We're going to turn codes just for a second and talk about flat racing, David.
Yes.
Yeah. But in fact, it's Megan who wants to kick off on this point with the flat championship. Yeah, I just think it's a bit bonkers, really. Go on, in what way? Are we talking trainers, jockeys? Well, all of it. I mean, you've got a jockeys and owners championship, which runs, if you're talking turf, from May, Guineas weekend, until Champions weekend, so May till October. And then you have a trainers championship, which runs January to January, which seems a bit odd, considering then there's an all-weather championship, which starts November till April. So, and the trainers have their own all-weather championship as well. So they all overlap, which all seems a bit madness. But I just think it's such a shame that we've got rid of the first race, the Brocklesby at Doncaster in March, up until the November handicap meeting back at Doncaster in November. There's however many months, 3 months or something of racing, which just basically means nothing. I mean, I just think it's mad. And how can there be 3 different championships for 3 different I just do not understand it. Is there a way we can clean this up now, Dave? Because it's happened over time. It's a result of lots of different factors over many years and lots of well-meaning initiatives to try and make the sport better marketed. Is there now a way with this that we can clean this up? And what would be the optimal solution? Right, there's certainly a way that we can clean it up. I didn't like the May to October revised championship, the short course form. It was denied that it was sort of said at the time, because I said, well, you're only doing it because it's Kipco and Kipco, and they said, no, we're not. It's nothing to do with that, though it obviously is. I loved that the sort of desperate glory of winning. I know that people say,
it was too long, and jockeys were exhausted by the long grind. Personally, I thought that was a wonderful spectacle to watch. And just one thing that is worth bearing in mind, when they do crown the champion apprentice and the champion jockey at Ascot on Kipco Champions Day, yes, they do get their day in the sun, and there are thousands of people there applauding and all the rest of it, which you might not get at Doncaster on the first Saturday of November. But in terms of media coverage, certainly print coverage, it's just outside the trade paper, it's completely lost in the fog. You know, I mean, I might say a little blob to say William Buick was crowned champion jockey for the first time. You know, you've got at most 600 words to write about all these Group 1 races, and the fact that a jockey has finally been announced to have won a race that he's been leading by 10 lengths for the last 3 or 4 months doesn't get any sports editors excited in the least.
Okay, let's talk about the expansion. Well, not expansion as such, but a diversification as regards the Shadwell roster of trainers. Now, you talk about last year when we lost Sheikh Hamdan Al Maktoum and the operation was being rationalised. People rather feared for the future of the whole operation. Now Baid is standing at stud at £80,000, retiring as a European champion. More young trainers have been added to the Shadwell's roster under the stewardship of Sheikh Hamdan's daughter, Sheikha Hissa. Amongst them, George Bowie, Kevin Philippard de Foy is another one, and there is a third younger trainer
Harry Eustace
added to the list as well. Harry Eustace, thank you, Megan, for pointing that out. I was really quite worried. I wanted Shark's view on this as well. I was really worried that training, particularly in this country, was just becoming completely dead man's shoes as regards flat trainers. This is really important, that the sport gets a sort of injection of youth.
It's very important to get a few younger trainers involved with Shadwell. Like, it's so important, you know. And it's great. I didn't realise it, to tell the truth, I didn't see it. But when you're after expanding that way, I thought that had maybe been the other way, that we're going to go all together. And I'm glad that that didn't happen, you know, because they're very good for the game. They're good, they're in there for the game, and they're good for it.
You know, we're talking 30-year-olds basically, not 50, 60-year-olds waiting for their chance to shine. And picking up on your point earlier on about being able to compete with the sort of training behemoths in Ireland, is the sport healthier for a bit more diversification?
Of course it is. Why wouldn't it? It's the same as any game. You know, like, the more people that you can get involved, and more people that can be involved at the top level, it's a big help. You take the national hunt. You have in England, you have a good spread of it, but like in Ireland, you have a kind of 4 top trainers, and you go into the weekend betting, and every one of them 4 trainers have all the favourites, and that's where all the good racing is. So, like, if there was a young lad coming up, it's great to see him coming up there and to be able to challenge with them.
I think this is great, honestly, because it's great, obviously, for those 3 young trainers to get the opportunity. But I think the most important point here is that Sheikha Hissa she's gone for people who are a similar age to her, who she'll probably find easier to communicate with, which is exactly what her father did when he sort of started to build what is an empire now. He went for trainers who were his age and who he could get on with and hopefully have long-term relationships with. And I think it is a sort of big sign that she's in this for the longevity of it. And I think this is really, really important and really exciting for the sport. Okay,
and there are not many things on a weekly basis that we say this is really exciting for the sport. Maybe the new structure of the sport is David Yates. The BHA announced a new system of governance this week.
It's one for the purists, this one. Not many who went to watch Rick Astley at the Sturgar Cup will have had been up all night thinking about the BHA governance structure. I think that's fair to say. But the issue...
But he's never going to give you up, are the BHA?
I forgot that Jonbon thing. He's halfway there. Right. Since the revised model of the tripartite system from 2015, there has been too much vetoing, I think it's fair to say, of policy. On Monday it was announced that the members' committee has been done away with, and I think that was the chief source of the vetoing of policy. 3 committees have come in. They are the Commercial Committee, the Industry Advisory Committee, and the Industry Programme Group. The idea is that the BHA will now have more power when it comes to the final decision making, which I think, in theory, we would all agree is a good thing. The worst thing, in my opinion, that ever happened to the BHA was when it was denuded of its ability to govern the fixture list, the OFT ruling of 2003, 4, 5. This may go some way towards it, although it's clear that within this new revised structure, the decision-making process will now take place 2/3 the way up the building with these three committees, and it will be then up to the BHA to, in name, be approving the new policy and announcing the new policy. But it might be that it's actually made by the power groups that exist there already, i.e. the racecourses, and the BHA will rubber stamp it. We will see. It reminds me slightly of this when I was a kid, and my mum, we were going on a caravan holiday, and my mum said, you can sort out where we're going. And of course, because I wanted to see the Loch Ness Monster, I drew a map from Bedford up to Loch Ness, and she said, no, we're going to Cromer. And it was almost like, so it was almost like that I was the BHA and she was the Racecourse Association, and when she didn't want to drive a caravan with 4 brothers in it going to Loch Ness, she said, we're going to North Norfolk, now get in the car.
We knew who the boss was.
All for the price of Hewick, don't forget. Right, those were this week's talking points. Julie Harrington, CEO of the British Horse Racing Authority, is up next.
Subscribe to Racing TV's YouTube channel now to watch more great races like this.